Hello, everyone. My name is Frank Anthony, and welcome back to Let Me Be Frank, episode 80. How are you guys doing today? I hope you're doing well. Me, not so much. It's been a roller coaster. That's probably the best way that I can put it, which kind of ties into me wanting to apologize for not releasing an episode last week. I feel like for the most part, I've been able to, week by week publish something. And then I had to practically take a month off before and then last week. And it's been so irregular. And I do want to apologize for that because I know when other podcasts or other things don't air an episode, not that I get mad or anything, but I get bummed out. It's like, oh, I really wanted to listen to that show. But then at the same time, I understand that they might be going through something or there might be some sort of, like just health issue or whatever. And for my case, unfortunately, it's a health issue that I thought was mostly going to be physical, and now it's tied into some mental stuff, a lot of mental stuff, and me realizing how much I'm suffering mentally. I don't know if any of you get like this, but do you ever just stay so busy in life that you don't really have to face certain negative situations or certain anxieties? I think for a very long time, I've always been able to keep the mind busy in my body, and I'm always running and I'm always going, and it's really hard for me to relax. And then when you do finally slow down, it's like it all hits you at once like a car crash. And I think that's what happened, and I think that's what's happened multiple times. And I think what's been able to slow me down is the stomach issues that I've been facing. Currently, I'm trying to follow, maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. It's called low FODMAP. It's pretty much a diet that they put on people who have IBS. I haven't been diagnosed with IBS yet, but I'm still waiting to see doctors in October. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. I have to wait all the way towards the end, so like right before Halloween. Yay. but but yeah, there's a lot going on with that I just don't have the answers to. I could really only hypothesize at this point, which speaking of, I've really been dreading this announcement for a while. I've been trying to think of how I'm going to say it. And normally I like to plan stuff out. And with this, I decided not to plan it, I guess, and just to kind of say it. Let Me Be Frank with Frank Anthony is going to end sometime in the middle or end of October. So probably like right before my doctor's appointment is when this show will be concluding. And I'm still kind of I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around the whole concept that, wow, this show is going to be over. And I'm sorry, I did not, I knew I was going to tear up. I told myself, I was like, don't tear up, don't tear up. Because it's really sad, I put a lot of effort into this show, and I know that there's support out there for the show. And for people that have been supporting it, whether it was from all the way back in season 1 to new supporters, I really, really want to thank you guys so much for checking the show out. There's going to still be at least, besides this episode, at least another 2 or 3 episodes. And I say 2 or 3 because I may end with a solo one, or I may just end on the last guest that I have. So I won't be doing any more interviews. For health reasons, I just can't do it. And for the irregularities, I don't want to keep having that for you guys. I want to be able, like the month in August, it wasn't enough, I guess. And then last week, it wasn't enough. I really have to focus on that. However, I do want to throw in some potential good news, is that I did start thinking about a potential new podcast that I may come out with. I may come out with it with a co-host, or it's going to just be a different idea. And I would probably use the same Instagram page, just kind of change the picture and the name on it, but it would still be like the same platform there, and maybe still recording through the same platform and everything, but just like a whole different show. And I don't want to give away what it's about yet because it's still like in process. It's, I'm still like in the thinking process of it. But with this show, it's really changed a lot. And I think that's another reason why the show needs to see its end for now, because I feel like, there's been solo episodes and there's been guest interviews and there's been commentary and there's been self-help, and it's been so many different things under one roof. It's like a bunch of different siblings that can't get along under one roof. And I feel like because of that, it made my mission shaky and the vision, and it made me feel very unsure about exactly what I was doing as well with this, where the idea that I'm already starting to come up with, I feel a little bit better about, and I feel like it's more concise, it's more of a niche. Also, with Let Me Be Frank too, I didn't realize I was going to take such a serious tone with the show as well. Like, a lot of the episodes aren't as funny as I thought they were going to be, and I realized going through this whole health journey and stuff too that I need to view like comedic stuff more, and I need to be able to, watch things that make me laugh or listen to things that make me laugh. Some of my favorite podcasts make me laugh and have helped me through this. So I kind of want to be another outlet for people who are going through things like myself or things even worse to, kind of help with the humor. And that's what this new show would do. And I like being funny and I like making people laugh. So that's something I would love to incorporate the next time. I just don't know when that show would come out, because of course part of me wants to do it right away, like right after this one ends, and then part of me is like, no, maybe you should plan it out a little bit more, because to be honest, this show was not planned at all. I just did it. I didn't research the name. I didn't I just did it. I just got a cover thing, got some music for the intro, and just like went into it, and you can hear from the beginning. But yeah, let me know, message me or comment on social post what you would want for a potential like last episode, whether it's a Q&A again, or it's just something, or like remembering back on certain episodes. Like, just let me know what you would want for a last episode, and then I can kind of add that bonus episode that would be solo, and we could do something maybe fun to close out the show. So I don't want to take too long in the intro. I feel like I'm already doing that a little bit. So I'm going to go with the quote and then get into today's guest. So quote of the day comes from Alexa H. And her quote is, "People have the right to think and say whatever they want to, but you have the right not to take it to heart and not react." And that quote was from Phil McGraw. And I went with that quote today specifically, which thank you, by the way, Alexa, for the quote, because I started reading. I usually am good and I read one book at a time. I'm not going to lie, because of all this, my mind's been everywhere and anxiety's been rapid, that I'm reading 3 books at once, and two of them are self-help and one is fiction. One of the self-help that I recently started reading is called 1,000+ Little Habits of Happy, Successful Relationships by Mark and Angel Chernoff. Something like that. Chernoff. Mark and Angel. So yeah, 1,000 Little Habits of Happy, Successful Relationships. And I'm only like 20-30 pages in, and wow, like everything I can relate to very well. And part of it starts off with taking things personally. And that's something, I don't know about you out there, but that's something that I've done a lot in my personal life. I've done it in interpersonal relationships. I've done it off of, for example, like a social media post, and maybe you see friends of yours hanging out together, but like you weren't invited, or like you weren't part of that, and taking it personally when maybe it had nothing to do with you personally. It most likely didn't. So stuff like that, like I would take every little thing so personally, or as a personal attack, when it isn't like that at all. And I also was learning too that, yeah, people have the right to think, like this quote with thinking and saying whatever they want to, that what was hard for me to accept is that you can't change them. You can't change people. You can't make them think, like you can't force them to think the same way that you do, or you can't control certain behaviors. The only thing that you can really control is your own actions and your own thought processes, like how you respond to what these people are thinking and saying about you. That is what you do have control over, and that there's a lot of power. There's a lot of spiritual power behind that. So yeah, I think it's definitely all about how you react to things. That's really important. And that's why I do like that quote a lot. Today's guest is Amy Baxter. So I want to give a little bit of warning, and I'll try to do that in the show notes as well. If you're just not in the, I know there's a lot of, I'm seeing it at least on my Facebook. There's a lot of sad stories, on social media, whether it's what's going on in the world or with pets or family members going. And if you're in a space at this moment where you can't handle listening to something like that, I would say don't listen to this episode right now. Definitely check out the episode, but I just want to give that warning that this episode is a little bit more on the sad side and the serious side, which I know I said earlier, my show is mostly serious, but this is a sad and heartbreaking story that Amy is going to share with us on the show about her dog, Ollie. I'm going to let her tell the story though, and all the actions that she's been taking after that. This happened about a year ago. And I just want to say, I probably say it in the episode, but I want to say it again, that I'm really proud of what she's been doing and what she's been working on and just how she's handled this situation. I think it's better than almost anyone I've ever met, including myself, would handle this type of situation. It's very hard. So I really applaud her for that. And I think, the work that she's been putting in has been amazing. And the people that have been helping her out and organizations have been amazing as well. There's going to be links in the description as well to donate to a certain fund and more about what she's going to talk about, which is called Ollie's Law. So there'll be more information in the show notes for that if you want to click on those links as well. So without further ado, let's get to the episode. It feels wrong. I usually say enjoy. It feels wrong considering what this is about, but I hope you get something out of it and enjoy. Hey, Amy, how's it going?
Hey, Frank. Good. How are you?
I am good. It's been, by the time this airs, it hopefully won't be as hot as the 90s. But
it is a sizzler. It is a sizzler.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's just get right into the interview. I wish that we were meeting on a little bit more positive terms. However, I feel like everything happens for a reason. I do want to thank you so much for coming on. And in a little bit, you're going to be sharing a really personal story. So I appreciate your time.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me and giving me the chance to talk about it.
So one question I like to ask everyone just to kind of start things off. If you were a novel, what would the back of your book say?
Oh geez, I don't know if anyone would read it, but it would say, I guess, that Amy Baxter knew at a really young age, like 16, that she wanted a career in public service. She worked, in government for over a decade and did her little part, to make her community better, make the world better or whatever. And then sort of just became a mom and a private citizen, worked in the private sector, and now, I think it would say she drew on those skills and tried to use her knowledge of government to help her community again, and to help animals this time. And it's almost been a year since I started this work. It's been a crazy journey, but I hope that the end of the book would be that she ended up being a great advocate for animals.
Yeah, I would buy that book. It sounds good.
You.
And time really flies by fast because what we're about to get into, it's been a year already?
It will be in October.
In October. Yeah. Wow, yeah. So when this airs, it'll be a year already. That's crazy.
It is.
But so unfortunately there was a horrible incident that occurred. Tell us more about Ollie and what exactly happened to him.
Sure. So last May of 2020, height of COVID, I decided, since my daughter and I were both home, it was a good time to finally get a puppy. Like we'd been talking about it for many years. I'm like, okay, this is it. Let's do it. So we got a little Labradoodle named Ollie. And he was just, he looked like a Muppet. That's the only way I can describe him. And he just was the most exuberant, sweet, like he just loved other dogs, all animals, but lived to play with dogs. He was just the sweetest animal and best pet.
What
And
breed was he? Sorry.
he was a Labradoodle.
Oh, you said Labrador. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So if you can picture though, he sort of looked like a Muppet. And he and my daughter were just inseparable. Like, because she was, in school at home. And then all summer they were together all the time. And when she went back to school in September, she was lucky enough to go back in person. I sent him to doggy daycare because he just didn't want to be alone and loved to be with other dogs. So it was his second day at daycare. And I dropped him off at this facility, and about an hour and a half, 2 hours later, I got a text message. And I remember it because I was working, I was driving, and the text popped up, and I try not to read text while I drive, but I saw, like, you should come get Ollie. And I'm like, what? Like, I just dropped him off. So I, pulled over, read the text, and it said, Ollie has a bad cut. You should come get him. This is bizarre. So I called the daycare, and said, what do you mean he has a bad, what cut him? And she said, well, actually there was a dog fight. And I remember, I know exactly where I was in Enfield, Connecticut, pulled over the side of the road, and I just wanted to vomit. Like, I just had this sinking feeling in my stomach that I knew, like, if they were calling me to come get him, that it just wasn't going to be good. But I was not prepared for what I saw when I got there. So I was luckily about only 10 minutes from the daycare facility in East Longmeadow. And when I got there, the owner was in the front of the facility, which was like, because of COVID, like I'd never been in there. I never saw the different rooms or the outside or anything. And she said, oh, let me go find Ollie. So then I got sort of hopeful. I'm like, oh, well, if he's in there running around, then it's not going to be that bad. And then I sort of followed her. I didn't give her the opportunity to tell me that. So I followed her into the playroom where she had just left Ollie on a bench. And I realized quickly, like, he couldn't move. And that was because his legs were broken. But I didn't know that at the time. I just knew that he couldn't move. And I think I started screaming and got hysterical. And so the daycare owner scooped him up and brought him out to my car. And I called my vet, who was very close by, and she said, Amy, you got to go to a hospital. Like, we're not prepared for this. We're, a little local vet. So I took him to the nearest hospital, which was in West Hartford, Connecticut. And, I had no idea. When I picked him up, there was blood, but she said, well, he has one bad cut. It's on his shoulder. Okay. And then when I brought him, by the time we got to West Hartford, he was in shock and, as it turns out, very close to death. And a care team came rushing out to the car, and they put him on a stretcher and they brought him in. And they were awesome and incredibly caring, and they immediately shaved him so they could see the extent of his injuries. And so a doctor called me like 10 minutes later, and I said, well, how many times what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? He needs surgery. Like, what? It's just a cut on his shoulder. And he said, no, it's a lot of bites. Like, how many? Like 6? And he said, no. I said, well, like 26? He said, no. And he obviously didn't want to give me a number, and I was pressing him, and he said, Amy, I'm just going to say it's too many to count, and the dog needs to go into surgery now. So I said, of course, do whatever you need to do. He's 7 months old. Like, he's got his whole life ahead of him. Save him, So that was the beginning. So that was October 5th. And what ensued was 8 weeks of surgeries and pain
Oh,
and
God.
suffering. I He came home several times for a day, 2 days, 3 days, and then he would just regress. And you know, the local vet would say, okay, he has to go back. So we moved him to Tufts in the Worcester area. Yeah, and he had 3 surgeries, and we did everything we could possibly do. But he died November 28th.
Jeez, this sounds bad. I feel like I'll cry more over animals than I do of people sometimes. It's
They're
just,
so helpless, you know?
it's so, yeah, exactly. That's the best way to put it. And it's, yeah, I mean, it's not like, yeah, like dogs in that situation, like what could have Ollie done, at the end of the day? And so you said this was day 2. So did day 1, like everything went fine?
Yeah.
And then just the next day was like this shit
I
show?
mean, to this day, I don't know what happened because there was only one person working at the daycare
Oh,
at the time that Ollie was attacked, and she was inside checking out a customer, and they had left her alone. So Ollie's incident happened in the yard. So, I don't know, and I was never able to get, like, I think the real story, and that is very much what motivated me, to work with like the SPCA and animal advocates and my amazing state rep, Brian Ash, to write a bill, you know,
yes.
because, if something horrific like this happens, the dog, like, there's just no regulation. So you can't say, oh, you broke the law, you should have done that. There's no law to break.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of questions I have
Yeah.
with all of this. I mean, I first want to say I'm so sorry
No,
that you've had to it's so hard to part of me doesn't even know what to say because it's like, yeah, I can say I'm sorry for your loss, but I can't imagine, yeah, how difficult this has been. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about Ollie's Law as well. I noticed that one thing I really admired about you without even really knowing you yet was that I felt like you just had so much strength in being able to put your energy into something positive coming from such a negative and ugly situation. So I do applaud you for that.
thank you. It's what's gotten me through,
Yeah.
right. Like the day after Ollie died, we called the Dakin Humane Society in
Yes.
Springfield, which is a wonderful organization that helps so many people, in the greater Springfield area and their pets. And I just said, like, I have to do something constructive and positive, like, today. And
Yeah.
they dropped everything, and, like, I worked with their development people and their marketing and, like, we I said I want to have like a memorial fund. So many people, like, we live in an amazing community, and so many people have been supportive and they've asked how they can help. So let's have them help Dakin. And we, like, yeah, literally in one day we had a press conference and we rolled out the Ollie Baxter Memorial Fund.
Wow.
And within weeks they had raised money and were funding. It was helping to fund a clinic so that people who can't afford routine veterinary care can go to Dakin and get vaccinations, just routine veterinary care that might be out of reach. And that, it makes me so happy that something positive, could come of this. And I don't want people to forget Ollie and what happened to him. So I'm glad that other animals are being helped in his name.
No, that's amazing. Sorry. That's amazing. You guys were able to do that. Yeah, so this place was called, I think, Pampered Pets or something. Whatever happened to them?
Like I said, I couldn't get any answers. The owner of the kennel just wasn't being truthful. I mean, that was obvious. That was apparent. I mean, because veterinarians were saying one thing and she was saying another. And so I knew right from the beginning that I wasn't getting the true story, but I didn't know the story. So I went to like city and state agencies, and it was all very convoluted because she didn't have a license, a kennel license. East Longmeadow doesn't require them, so she wasn't doing anything wrong in that regard. She just needed a zoning permit and a business license, which she had. So at that point, I hired an attorney in the Boston area who specializes in dog, in this area of law. So when we realized that she had gotten this permit, this zoning permit that allowed her to do business, we went to the town of East Longmeadow and said, look, we feel like she violated the terms of this zoning variance, and you should investigate. So in mid-January, they had a hearing. It was the East Longmeadow Planning Board, I think, and they voted unanimously to revoke the zoning permit that allowed her to do business. So without that permit, she couldn't be open. So the facility was closed.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Jeez. I know, that's crazy. The just the lack of, I just feel like there's so many other types of businesses, whether it's in our living area or somewhere else, that require so much more. And it's just, I don't know, it just baffles me how little that was required for her to open this business, where there was definitely, where she was obviously lacking in certain things to be able to offer these dogs actual security.
Yeah. So while my attorney and I were working on that, I was working with a group of animal advocates and kennel owners and vets and my rep, Brian Ash, on crafting a bill. And I think it was also about, this winter that we filed a bill in the Massachusetts House of Representatives called Ollie S Law that would regulate the industry. And so I think the broadest and most important thing is that it mandates a state level kennel license, so that you can't have a town like East Longmeadow say, we don't need a kennel license. Well, you do, because with that license comes an inspection and some oversight. And if something goes wrong, there's a state agency that is charged with investigating. So that's one thing that Ollie's Law would mandate. And then it gets the Massachusetts Department, I'm getting wonky here, the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources oversees anything to do with animals. So, they licensed the pet shops in Massachusetts. They did the shelters too. Oh. So now we're looking at daycares. And so they would actually promulgate the regulations, but what the bill says they have to look at is like a staff to dog ratio, so that you don't have one person working. I mean, this poor woman, she actually testified at the legislative hearing, and I've since spoken with her. And this poor kid, I mean, she said she thinks of Ollie every day. Oh, geez. She has nightmares. She had to go to the hospital. She needed medical attention herself. She put herself between Ollie and God knows how many dogs. She said she couldn't count. Every dog that was in the yard just piled on Ollie once one started. And jeez. So this would prevent, one person from being, because it's not just an animal protection bill. It's also, it's a consumer protection bill, right? For the dog owner. And it also protects the workers.
There definitely should have been more than just her there.
She had been working there for 3 weeks, and they left her alone.
Wow.
So a bill looks at ratio, it looks at physical space, how much room, indoors, outdoors, things like that. Emergency protocols. Like if there was a vet right next door to Pampered Pets. So if she had maybe some type of emergency protocols, look, it probably couldn't have happened because there was only one person working. But if there had been adequate staffing and an emergency plan, maybe somebody could have run him right next door.
Well, definitely, yeah.
They would have gotten the infection under control. Who knows? I mean, who knows? Obviously, we don't. But it just seems like, my God, there was a vet 20 feet away, and yet this poor young woman was stuck there by herself, and it wasn't an option. So emergency protocols. Also, like, what if there's a fire? Like, things happen. You have to have a plan. So it would mandate that.
Just a little refresher. Is Ollie's Law has passed, correct, or not yet?
It has not yet passed.
Not yet. Okay.
So we filed the bill in March.
Yes.
Or February. And it went to the the joint committee. So it's a joint House Senate committee for consumer protection. And they held, like, every bill gets a hearing. So the hearing for this bill was in mid-July. I think it went very well, but I'm biased. And so now, as of today, it's late August. It's still in committee. So the next step would be that it moves out of that committee and to its next stop. But if it moves out of committee, that's a really good sign. We'll see.
Oh, no, that's great. Yeah. No, I really hope that all goes well. It's good you feel good about it too.
Yeah, I am. Like, I think I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, I think there were 17 people on the committee, and I remember saying to them, like, how many of you have dogs? How many of you have children? Like, do you want to tell your kid that their dog was, ripped apart at a dog daycare? Like, I just think it's such a relatable issue.
Oh, yes.
And a common sense issue,
No, yeah, dog owners are some of the most passionate people I've met. I'm a dog owner myself, and oh my God, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have lost control. I'm not gonna lie. That's why I applaud with everything that you have done. Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people would have reacted in a more aggressive way to that. But so you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to. I just, thought maybe, I don't know what I was thinking, but if you could tell the owner one thing, what would you tell them?
I would just ask her, why didn't you just call me and have me pick him up? Like, if he was being an annoying little puppy and a bunch of older dogs were annoyed with him, why didn't you just have me pick him up? And it was so preventable. It didn't have to happen. Like, why? I mean, she wasn't there, so I guess she couldn't call me. But
still, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's her responsibility at the end of the day. So with this question, it doesn't have to be related to this situation. It can be. It could just be in general. It's another question I like to ask people that come onto the show. What is one of the most important lessons you've learned in life?
You make your own fate in a way. And relative to this situation, I don't know. I've talked to a lot of people over the past year who've lost their dogs. At kennels, at daycares, at groomers, like what. And it's just, I don't know. It's not enough to just be sad and put your grief on the shelf.
Yeah.
No one, you know what I mean? No one was going to do this for me. Like, I just feel like I have a mandate now, and I see something that is so obviously and just glaringly wrong and unsafe and needs to change. And it's hard, it's triggering, it's draining, it's sad, but, like, I have to do it.
No, I'm happy that you took so much action towards this, and this wasn't something that was like, yeah, it was something that you grieved on and then just kind of, like you said, yeah, put it on a shelf, or just, like, I don't know, certain sad things will happen. I noticed, especially, like, for example, when your story was on the news and someone that doesn't know you, they might hear it, they might get sad from it, but then sometimes there's no action after. So I'm really happy that not only that you put action and so much effort into making Ollie's Law and everything, but that you were able to get other people to
Absolutely.
join and come in. Yeah, because
Oh my God.
we have to be able to help each other.
Yep. Oh, what an outpouring, from this community. Just amazing, for Dakin,
Yes.
for just, maybe people who wouldn't ordinarily be involved in government, and reaching out to their state reps, advocating, it's wonderful to see.
Yeah, I think sometimes we don't realize how much power we actually have or that we can do to make change.
Absolutely. I worked, in the district office of a state legislator for a very long time, and I can tell you that the people who made noise and the animal advocates were very good at making noise. Like the legislators notice, so that's why it's been so, like, this is not, a Long Meadow thing or a Western Mass thing. This is across the Commonwealth. Dogs are dying. It needs to stop. My attorney at the legislative hearing, I thought this was a very powerful moment. He read the names of 32 dogs that have been in the past, I think, 4 or 5 years that his law firm has been in existence. 32 dogs that have been injured, like severely injured, or have died.
Wow.
So
Just that one law firm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So it needs to stop.
Yeah.
I think I think there's just an expectation, right? When you drop your dog at a brick and mortar daycare or kennel, like, you think, okay, this person is a pet professional. They know more than I do about the animals. So I don't know. It's just like I feel like I do research before I buy a pair of shoes, and yet
Yeah.
I just, I had neighbors who use this facility. So I was like, okay, great. That sounds like fun. It never occurred to me to ask if they were licensed or if they had an emergency plan. And I just don't think that's on people's radar when they drop their dogs off to play. And so that's why I said, like, it's consumer protection, it's animal protection, it's a worker issue, a worker safety issue, common sense, I think.
Which, yeah, speaking of, is there any advice that you maybe have for other pet owners when it comes to them, maybe, yeah, they're not sure who to trust or what exactly, yeah, what types of questions to ask or things like that when it comes to, yeah, bringing their pets to other facilities?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it didn't occur to me to ask, but now I'm just trying to get the word out that there's no regulation, there's no rules, there isn't certainly no laws, statewide laws. So it's up to the individual facility owner to decide how to run their business, with no oversight from the state. So, if your dog is off leash, whether it's kennel, daycare, dog park, that's a little different situation because you're there. But yeah, I would ask, are you licensed? How many employees? What's the staff to dog ratio? Will you put my dog with, dogs of the same size and temperament? I mean, often, like, Pampered Pets had on its website, oh, dogs are grouped, with the utmost care by size, I mean, Ollie was about 30 pounds and he was mauled by very large dogs. A bull mastiff, hundreds of pounds, a pit, big labs. What you read on a website is not always what happens in practice. Get a tour of the facility. At this point, like, I would say, look for a facility with cameras. There are some where you can actually watch at your convenience, watch what's going on there and see your dog. I figure if somebody's putting cameras in their facility, then they have nothing to hide.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
There are some. So that would be my advice is ask questions. And if the facility sort of, cringes, doesn't like it, whatever, then go somewhere else.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of a red flag in a way, and sometimes people are afraid to ask questions. Don't, because
Absolutely.
not everyone views pets or dogs this way, but dogs and pets are they're like our children in a way for a lot of us. So yeah, it's like
Yeah.
like don't be afraid to ask those questions. Like this is, yeah, they're family members just like everyone else in the family.
That's it. Like they're living things, and
Yes.
Ollie suffered. Like I wouldn't wish it on anyone or anything.
No.
That dog was in an incredible amount of pain for 8 weeks.
But to kind of close things out,
Yeah.
do you have any social media links or website links or any links related to Ollie's Law or any sort of links or donation links that you would like to share and I can put in the description below?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Ollie's Law has a Facebook page,
Okay.
which is a great way if people want to follow this, follow the legislation, help out. That's the place to go. Like it's got all the information, and if someone wanted to help make a donation to Ollie's Fund at Dakin, when you go on the Dakin website, it says special funds, and it's the
Okay.
first one that comes up, the Ollie Baxter Memorial Fund, and anything that's given to Dakin is going for direct medical care to families who need it. So I think it's so extraordinary. I'm so thrilled. Dakin feels very strongly that socioeconomic status shouldn't determine who can own a pet and who can't. And especially with COVID, people fell on hard times, and vets are expensive, and they shouldn't, like, no one should have to give up their dog because they can't afford a heartworm or a vaccination. And so when I asked them, what is the area that, like, where you would most like help or where you'd like to direct any donations, and they said this, what they call their Clinic Plus. It just was like, it was so perfect, because Ollie got the best medical care. I mean, we couldn't visit because it was in a COVID lockdown, and I would drive out to Worcester and leave some of his toys in the doctor's car, and she would smuggle them in her backpack. She sent me videos of him on Halloween, on his first snow. I never got to see, and they were so kind, not only to him but to me. And not not everyone can afford that, and it makes me so happy, so incredibly happy that other animals can be helped in Ollie's name.
Put myself together there. Thank you so much. And first, actually, before I say the thank you, everyone that's listening, make sure that you do go donate. It's a great cause. And Amy, everything you said was well said. And thank you so much again for sharing your story and Ollie's story. Hey, Past Frank here, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you subscribe to stay updated on new episodes, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and if you'd like to become a producer or make a one-time donation to the show, click on the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. I want to give a special thanks to my producers Monica Leigh, Alexa Hunt, Jennifer Herrera, Stephanie Lindsay, Kas Nolan, Alana Rasmussen, and Krisha. I also want to thank each and every one of you for listening to the show. Have a super special awesome day, and bye.